you from beautiful Northwest Montana. It's time for the Mary Todd Show. And here's your host, Mary Todd.
Hi, welcome to the Mary Todd Show. We're so glad to have you on with us. This is my co-host, Tony Sword. We have a very special day in store for you. First of all, Tony, before we introduce our wonderful guest, what about that Kash Patel?
Isn't that exciting? It took long enough to get this taken care of, but yeah, I'm excited that he's going to be in there.
Yep.
And did you see? There were several things on his little docket that he was going to take care of, and one of them was the file for Epstein Island. And our producer Jim told us before we went on the air that Pam Bondi's got that file on her desk now. So that could mean
I hear
arrest.
it's to review the files.
Oh,
Why can't they
goodness.
just send us the files?
Yeah.
Come on, we're all adults here. Let's
That's right.
send the files.
Yeah.
So, of course, Kash Patel will be the head of the FBI. And our guest, very special guest that I got to meet when I was on her podcast. She's got a few podcasts going. Her name is Penny Shepard, and she knows quite a bit about the CIA. Mm-hmm. So we're going to transition from the FBI to the CIA, but I'm sure she knows about both. Her life has been incredible. Her main job was as a singer for years and years. She traveled all over the world. Wow. And she had several different bands and just was a singer, which is amazing to me. I have no talent in that area, but I love good singing.
Good music.
But now she's a podcaster. She's an investigator, and we'll let her tell about her podcasts and what she's investigating now. And then we're going to get into what Penny calls the military industrial entertainment complex, which is very complex.
It's a huge title for something that I know
is a huge thing.
Yeah, and we know nothing about.
Yeah. So Penny, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you on.
Thank you. And thank you for being on our show. We have several shows. One is The Awake Nation. That's my main show. It's on the David Zublik channel on Rumble. And we are live 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and that's Eastern time. So that's why you're getting, texts from me at 1 a.m. because I'm up at 3 a.m, 3 a.m. to do that show. And then I also have another show, which is Agent X11, and that's on Rumble. And the inception of that was from another show that we had that they wanted us to pay for a server, which we could not pay for. And I was creating series for other whistleblowers and truth tellers. And so I prayed and I asked God, what should I do? I had a Rumble channel just to get on Rumble because we're on Rumble, but I never posted anything on it. It was Agent X11, which is actually my moniker because I was married to Steve Zenos. And I believe that I am actually the real 11 from Stranger Things. I don't believe that the children, I'm calling them children because I'm 66, actually know that they wrote about a real person. I was also born August 11th, 1958. And my name Penny is short for Penelope, which is also short for L, which is short for 11. So I started writing Agent X11 when I was actually thrown in a crazy house. And the reason why was because I was researching and asking questions about what I came to find out was my deep state family. My brother David, who I grew up with, wrote an unpublished book entitled The Whistleblower. It was about Bush, the Vatican, and about my deep state family. He was murdered in San Diego, April 28th, 2007, I believe it was.
Was this your real brother?
My real brother. And I grew up with 4 children in the family. I was the baby. And but I didn't know anything about my mother. And then I started researching her when I began to wake up. I was in the entertainment industry at a very young age. I can remember the very first thing I did with my mother, who was also an artist, was we recorded a Babyface Nelson show. And I remember my line, my brother was Babyface Nelson, and my line was, "How much did you get?" So I was like about three or 4, right? And so
is your mom a singer? Is your mom a singer? How did
you? As a matter of fact, I didn't know anything about my mom. I believe my mom was a Hitler baby, but her mother, my grandmother was Millie Baker Darlington, and she was a singer. And I did not even find out until I was singing that my grandmother was a singer. She broke her hip. She lived in Hollywood, and for 3 days, no one knew that she even broke her hip. And then when I went to go clean out her garment drawer, I found a newspaper article in there that said that she was a blues singer in New York, and it said she got in a car accident. She was suing the cabbie for 10 grand because all she could sing were the blues. Really, Grandma? Because you were a blues singer. And that's how I found out my grandma was a singer, and so I was a second generation singer. The people in my family, my sisters and my 2 brothers, they also sang.
Okay. Did you guys ever sing together?
No, we did not. As a matter of fact, when I was in high school, I was in a performing arts high school in Miami, North Miami Beach Senior High School. It was a performing arts school. And at one point I took singing, and that's pretty much when I found out about the singing thing, because my mom said to me, we'll have no singers in this house. And I was like, well, that's weird because everyone else took chorus, but we'll have no singers in the house. And subsequent to that, I found out why she said that.
Wait, so she wouldn't allow you to sing in the house, or she said that
no, she said we will have no singers at, period, because I took chorus behind her back.
Okay.
I was such a bad kid, right?
Rebellious.
Yeah.
And she found out when I got, brought my report card home. I was also a person that was a writer. So I've been writing since I was in 6th grade. I wrote a children's book. They wanted to take me on tour, but my mother said no.
Wait, what do you mean they wanted to take you on tour in the 6th grade?
A book tour?
In the 6th grade?
They wanted to take me on a book tour. They wanted to publish the book and take me on a book tour. But my mother said no.
Well, I would have too for a 6th grader.
Pardon?
I would have said no for a 6th grader to go on tour as well.
Exactly.
That was a good decision that your mom made.
Yes. Well, my mother was a very strange individual. That's for a whole nother show. But I grew up writing, and I've always been somewhat of an investigative journalist. However, those talents were somewhat thwarted, and I went into the entertainment industry. I studied acting under Stella Adler. Stella Adler was the teacher for Marlon Brando and Robert De Niro. They turned out like crap, so I don't know what their excuse was.
I don't think they won a single award between them, did they?
No, Robert De Niro, I did not know he wore elevator shoes.
Yes.
But to each his own. He's going to need those shoes, because I have a feeling that because Kash Patel is in, he might actually be on that Epstein list. We don't know.
Yeah.
Those who decry foul the most are usually those who are complicit, and we're finding that Trump is diminishing all of the agencies, and it's not revenge. People are like, oh, he's so vengeful. No, he cannot afford to have people in the positions that they are who tried to put him in jail.
Well, more than that too, if he continues to allow these cover-ups that people did, it'll just perpetrate lying under oath and perjury. And so we've got to stop it. And I don't think that he'll go ahead and put them all in jail. I think he'll expose them and then probably exonerate, let them off, but let everybody know this is what they've done and it's going to stop.
Oh, I hope he does not let them off. I think these individuals, I think they need to pay for what they have done.
Child abuse? Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I hope so. Yes. But I'm wondering.
One of the things that I research in what I deem the military industrial entertainment complex, and what I do on Agent X11, so I have a segment called True Crimes. I have 2 true crimes. I just did one and interviewed Cash Kelly, and I'm going to be doing another one this evening. But we investigate true crimes. One of my co-hosts, Chris Montgomery, was also in the White House at one point. He was a Hollywood agent. He represented an individual who was murdered in Aguilla. I believe he was murdered by his wife, who no one even knew that he had a wife. So he's been involved in true crime with TJ Ward, also Nancy Grace. He's one of my co-hosts on Agent X11. We also had an individual who was Christian Brando's ex-girlfriend, who wanted to set the record straight, and she believes that Marlon Brando was actually the one that killed Dag Jolet, not Christian Brando. So we aim to try to get at the bottom of things. Now, when we're talking about how we've all been hoodwinked, we've been hoodwinked by the past governance.
We're living the Truman Show.
Yeah.
Yes, hopefully that's going to change. We're the hoodwinks, the blinders are coming off
Mhm.
of many people's eyes. Although there still is the rabid left, which I don't believe that their blinders. Some of them will fall off, but some of them are so. And I'm going to use this word MK Ultra that I don't know that there is a way out for them. I use this word because I found out I was involved in MK Ultra projects.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there and ask you to briefly explain what MK Ultra is, because our audience doesn't know, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so I'm going to
don't get into too many details with it. But
I'm going to just do a broad-based
Okay.
definition.
Okay,
We're not going to go into paperclip and all that other stuff.
That'll be for our next show.
Right. So the broad-based definition, which I used, and I talked about it the other day on the show, is I had one host of a show say he didn't want me to come on because my definition of MK Ultra was not like everyone else's, and I was like, okay, because what they choose to utilize a faction of MK Ultras that have what is called DID, dissociative identity disorder, or multiple personality disorder. Roseanne actually has that. And
was she in MK Ultra?
I don't know. She is working with Tom Althouse, who's also on our show, who is one of the author. He is the author of The Matrix.
I just quick question here. Are we talking Roseanne Barr? Roseanne?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yes,
my
Roseanne
goodness.
Barr.
Okay.
She spoke with Kathy O'Brien. Kathy O'Brien wrote a book, Transformation of America, and she talked about the MK Ultra programs and what happened to her. She'd been on our show several times. So let me just give you a very brief understanding of MK Ultra. It's mind control. Okay,
exactly. That's a good way to put it.
Now, what it actually is mind control with a K, and it is a German operation. But I don't think it's strictly a German operation. I think since man decided to enslave man, that's what he did. He endeavored to manipulate and control the thoughts of individuals and enslave them. So MK Ultra is not a proposition that was ended after the church hearings. It was not ended. They just went more underground. I don't believe that Richard Helms ever threw anything away. These experiments go on for a lifetime. So in the broad space spectrum of what MK Ultra is, Hitler used it. Okay, they use what's called neuro-linguistic programming. You say to somebody, and you use the most potent form of hypnotism that there is. So you would say, "You don't want any milk, do you?" and you're like, "What?" Because they've just confused the visual with the oral. Okay, and so that's just one proposition of it, of the mind control. The other one is control the narrative with propagandist ideas. That's what happened in this last administration. So the military industrial entertainment complex involves everything you read, involves your news media, involves your entertainment media, involves the branding, if you will, of actors and actresses. And you wonder, is Kanye West MK Ultra? Is Britney Spears MK Ultra? I think Britney Spears came from the Mickey Mouse empire. I worked for the mouse too. Even saying that is weird. We're talking about Disney.
Yes,
okay,
of course.
But you will find many of these stars that started under Mickey Mouse and the Mickey Mouse Club. The premise is mind control. And then it's also a competitive thing. I'm not a competitive individual. I cannot compete with another person. I can't compete with another person's body or with their voice or with their face. I can only compete with myself and be the best person that I can be, that God wants me to be, and do what God wants me to be.
That's right.
So
Amen.
I don't believe in the competition thing, my dog's bigger than your dog kind of thing. It facilitates a bad, in my estimation, a bad outcome. And I think it engenders, rather than helping one another, which is why we're here on this planet, we're here to help one another. I think it engenders more of I'm just going to say a kind of a satanic agenda in which you're competing and clawing for little pieces. And that's not That's not what God wants for us. God wants for us all to be able to work together and to find some peaceful resolutions and to expose the truth.
We
I'm gonna read a
we
li-
had the silver guru on our show, David Morgan, and he ended the show by saying that he had climbed to the top. He had reached the pinnacle. He had all the success in the world and bawled his eyes out because it didn't mean anything.
Right.
And so what you're saying is so true, that we claw, we compete, we want to get there, and once we do, it means nothing. And it really truly is
Imagine
relationships.
climbing the pinnacle of the entertainment enterprise just to find out that what's at the top literally is Satan.
Yeah. Isn't
Okay?
that the truth?
It has nothing to do with God.
Well,
It has
you've seen them on some of the shows saying that we've had to sell our soul. I've seen many different interviews where these people
Katy
say,
Perry.
how do you think I got there? I wanted to be the best, and so I had to do what I had to do, and I wrote my name in blood. And I'm going, you've got to be kidding me! So they knew what they were doing. It wasn't like it was something that just kind of all of a sudden happened on them. They slipped into it very. I mean, it was a design for
yes.
them. Yeah.
And one of the things that I also that we report on is Diddy. And I'd read something about the release of the Diddy files, which I'm not sure if that's actually an accurate statement that was made regarding Epstein and Diddy files, because Diddy's still in litigation. So I don't know that they can actually release that unless they've done litigation in which they can, speak about it. And so we try not to be speculative, although in some instances we have to be speculative. I'm going to read a little bit from my blog. It's chapter 22, Secret Government. And this is from Kevin Shipp. Kevin Shipp was actually introduced to me by Mike Smith out of Shadows, and Mike Smith has been on our show, and Liz Crokin was also on there. So this is from my blog. The deep state exists. March 2018, Senator Paul Rand stated, there is absolutely a deep state because the deep state is the intelligence communities that do not have oversight. In commenting on the CIA director briefing, where only 8 senators in the U.S. Senate were briefed rather than all the Senate, he stated the very definition of deep state is when the very people, congressional leaders, people who are elected by the people, are not allowed to hear the intelligence. John Lay, an author who published an article on Moyers and Company, asserted a more broad-based global implication to which the deep state actually applies. John asserts the term deep state has been used for decades abroad to describe any network of entrenched government officials who function independently from elected politicians and work towards their very own ends. And I know that you can attest to what the FBI and what deep state police do in other venues globally. Yeah. Mick Mulvaney, acting White House chief of state, when asked if the deep state working against Trump exists, stated it was absolutely 100% true. Mike Crowley, senior foreign affairs correspondent for Politico, and we know Politico is one of those that received funding from USAID.
A lot of funding. Yep.
A lot.
In fact, they're not able to pay their employees now with the new administration in. Gee, I wonder why.
So sad.
Huh.
Close those doors.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Amazing.
Let me cry some liberal tears.
Yeah, please.
I can't because I'm not liberal. The reality that a large segment of U.S. government really does operate without much transparency or public scrutiny has abused its awesome powers in a myriad of ways. I wrote this in 2020, okay? And little did I know how obscured and how corrupt our government had become and how deep state. George Friedman is a political scientist who believes the deep state has been in place since 1871 and continues beneath the federal government, controlling and frequently rewriting and reshaping policies. In his view, the U.S. Civil Service was created to limit the power of the president. Prior to 1871, the president could select federal employees, all of whom served at the pleasure of the president. He says this is no longer the case. Well, this is what has happened with Doge. The president has selected Elon Musk to serve at the pleasure of the president, to create an office to oversee government waste. And I think it's working very well. Edward Snowden, NSA, DIA, and CIA former employer and leaker, stated the deep state is not just the intelligence agencies. It's really a way referring to the career bureaucracy of governments. These are officials who sit in powerful positions who don't leave when the presidents do, who watch the presidents come and go. They influence policy and they influence presidents, which is why we're cleaning out the FBI and the CIA. The deep state is not a conspiracy theory. It is a conspiracy of facts involving collusion by global new world order satanic political factions. And then I go on to talk about Kevin Shipp. If you don't know who Kevin is, he has a master's degree in forensic psychophysiology. He is a CIA whistleblower who worked for the agency. He distinguishes that the deep state and the shadow government are not the same entity. So he has a lot of videos on YouTube in which he actually outlines, and I put this in my blog, and he actually outlines how the unconstitutional power of the government secrecy through the various agencies. So he goes through the CIA, which goes through the MSN, which is, as you know, has been controlled by our entire leftist proposition propagandist arm, protecting the Democratic Party. Then it goes to FISA, NSA, Silicon Valley, JSOC, DNI, 17 agencies, DHS, DOS, DIA, NRO, NGA, FBI, CFR, back to the CIA. So I won't bore you with any more, but
well, have you been able to interview him, Kevin?
I have not.
I would love to get. I was going to say, do you have a connection?
Yeah,
we saw him interviewed on Candace Owens, so he's really fascinating. I think you sent it to me, or I sent it to you, one of the two. But really fascinating for people that some people might be thinking, man, these guys are wearing tinfoil hats, and this is all crazy. Yeah. Before my son's death and murder, I would have been one of those people saying this is too far-fetched, but it really is not. And Kevin is a great interview, a great podcast to watch with Candace Owen. I was hoping you had one, so let's try to see if we can get him.
You saw the deep state from our State Department to another foreign country, to three different foreign countries. Did you not?
Singapore, China, and the United States. Yep, all working in conjunction with each other. So it is very deep and very corrupt. And I don't know about you, Penny, but did you ever listen to Q before he changed to QAnon, and it really wasn't probably the informant?
No, because at the time I had been asking questions like, why did I look like Irene Mengele, who married Joseph Mengele, who was Hitler's scientist, and why did my murdered brother David, who wrote a book entitled The Whistleblower about Bush's Vatican and my deep state family, why did he look like their only son, Rolf? And I was drawing these comparisons, and so I started speaking out, and I ended up as many deep state whistleblowers, but I don't have any proof. I ended up thrown in a crazy house for a year, but I just got off an interview with Kash Patel, and he was telling, not Kash Patel, it's another Kash.
Could you get us Kash Patel?
Kash Kelly, not Kash Patel. And Kash Kelly is a J6er, and my nose is running a little bit because he had me crying. He sang a beautiful song, and he talked about being incarcerated and utilizing your time to do the right thing. Sometimes God puts you in a position for a specific reason. It's a quiet time, or can be a quiet time of reflection, in which you prove literally who you are. So I was writing. I got up at 6 a.m, worked until 12 o'clock at night. Pretty much what I'm doing now. Pretty much what I've done the majority of my life.
You are a hard worker. I can tell. I've only gotten to know you over the last few days, and I can see. I told Jim, our producer, this woman works, and he said because of your story, you're driven to tell the truth.
You keep Donald Trump hours.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yes, as a matter of fact, yes. And I think that's why Donald Trump does it too. Yeah. Donald Trump knows that, you don't waste daylight. And look what he has done. Look what this incredible man has done in a month in office, more than Biden ever did in his entire career.
Exactly.
Well, Biden's been destructive. Even if Donald Trump had did zero, it'd be more than Joe Biden. So
true.
Praise God.
But what he has done, I wake up and I collect 2 hours of news. Okay. We do 2 hours of news every day. And I am so thankful. When I was younger, And I was writing. I wanted to be a writer, a journalist, and a news reporter. And God told me, "Don't worry about being a singer. It's okay. You'll be writing later on in life." And I was like, "Okay." Well, I didn't realize I was going to be 60.
Hey, well, I'm 73, and here we are doing. I've never done a podcast before. A quick question: where do you get your news? Are you looking? Obviously, not CNN.
I look everywhere. No. I look everywhere. I go on X. And I vet out the sources on X. X appears to be, I even do a segment at the beginning of the news. It's called X's and O's and uh-ohs.
Oh, that's good.
And whom's.
X's, O's,
X's and O's and uh-ohs and And they are tweets that people put out there that I have vetted the individuals. Some I haven't, but, some most of them I have, as far as for which side they are on. I block a lot of the boisterous, nose ringed, purple haired, screaming liberals, which, by the he, she, it, furry pronoun references, which I never followed.
There's also the Hakeem Jeffries.
Thank God for Trump. He said no more of that nonsense.
No more.
Yeah. I mean, I wondered how far have we come as a nation for debauchery when the president has to come out and say there are only two genders.
It's crazy.
Right.
And then he puts a stop to the boys and girls sports, and there's still states like Maine who are totally ignoring him.
Oh,
and,
it's not
they're
just
doing
the
it
Maine.
on a lower level. I've done many things in my life. Okay. As we all have, okay, we've all had to wear many, many hats. And I worked in the legal profession. I also worked as an executive assistant for the athletic director of the University of San Diego, USD.
Oh, wow.
And we were in charge of NCAA. And so I was in charge of all of the staff, the athletic staff, all of the coaches, preparing their schedules, etc. And I can't imagine at the collegiate level having women in football, or
wrestling,
men in women's sports,
boxing and wrestling. That they're pole vaulting.
Well, we talked about this the other day, and I said if transgenders want to have a competition, then they should have their own group rather than joining the women. It is just totally not fair.
No, we watched a couple women get plummeted,
yes,
and permanently damaged from this
brain damage. Yeah,
yes, it's just it's incomprehensible. But I want to let people know the military-industrial entertainment complex encompasses the sports arena as well. Okay, so it's very broad based. Now we had talked a little bit off air about another thing called SAD.
Yes.
So when I was researching all this is a weird story.
You have some weird stories. I'll tell you.
I was one of my agents took me to go see the Temptations. The Temptations broke up into a bunch of little groups from each person that had either been in the Temptations or had been a leader in the original group. When you have a band, as I've had many bands, when you have to bring in a new player, they become that player within the group. So I was taken to go see the Temptations, and they sang "My Goal" for me, and they put me in the front row, and they were like, "Hey, why aren't you singing, Penny? We know you're a good singer." And I was like, I don't really actually feel like it. Well, years later, the Temptations came back into my life when I was in Branson. God told me to go to Branson twice. I was having visions, and some of the visions actually came true. Branson is an entertainment town. Okay. Now, the military-industrial entertainment complex involves music. It involves movies. So we're talking about producers, actors, CEOs that are sponsoring these programs. They all kind of get on the bandwagon, which is why Diddy is so instrumental right now, because I think Diddy is going to be leading to a lot of high individuals. One of those who has been named is Obama.
Yeah.
And we have pictures of Obama with
videos.
Diddy.
Yep.
Yes. And also another individual who's been named. And that's why it's very important that the Epstein list comes out. But then there's also an individual named Sean Diddy
Mhm.
Combs, who's been raping and pillaging for decades.
Mhm.
That means that there are decades of people involved within the banking industry, within the healthcare industry, within they're all meshed together because you have these people that sponsor, like Pfizer, and that's what you were talking about, the big
Okay,
pharma.
that's where
Mhm.
I knew there was,
Yeah.
because we're really on a bent against big
Yeah.
pharma right now and
Yes.
exposing the
So
corruption
the big
there.
pharma funds the television stations. So you're going to
Interesting.
be seeing the fall of many of these television stations when Bobby Kennedy Jr. comes out and
Mhm.
says there will be no more big pharma
Interesting.
advertising
Oh, that'd be
Wow.
on
great.
television. You are now going to see the withdrawal of those funds and the collapse of somewhat of big pharma.
Praise
Although,
God.
here's what they might do: they might engender another virus
Mhm.
Oh, they're
and
something.
encapsulate
Yeah.
that audience. So that's where we were talking about big pharma. We've also seen CNN. CNN got kicked out of the Pentagon. That made me
Uh-huh.
happy. Um,
Did you see when J.D. Vance was talking about, he was at the CPAC the other day, and he said that Trump's done more for CNN than he said he kept him alive for the first during 2017. He said, in fact, I think there are more people who are for Donald Trump than who even watch CNN. So
yeah, CNN's going
they're
down.
going
down.
Yeah.
I think they got rid of like all the major studios, MSNBC,
Mm-hmm.
ABC. MSNBC, their news division wanted to separate from them. I'm not sure what station The View is in. Is it
ABC.
MSNBC?
I think it's ABC.
ABC.
And Trump called Peter Alexander out the other day for NBC News, and he said, "You're a horrible, horrible reporter. That's a bad question." And I mean, literally, just shut him down right there. But yeah, MSNBC,
It is
NBC.
time. And you know what I really love is that Trump has now said that he wants podcasters and other
Yes.
media, alternative media, in the White House, in the press briefings.
Mhm.
When have you ever seen this? This is epic. It's historical because the military industrial complex, which works hand in hand with the military industrial entertainment complex, which is the MSN, they have been lying to you. So there's a whole group of people like you, Mary Todd, the Mary Todd Show, like all of the alternative people that are out there that have been trying to tell you the truth and have been stepped on and spit on and
Called
pushed
names.
aside
Yeah.
and maligned.
Yep.
Well, Trump's now giving people press passes
Yes.
so they can actually come in. I'd like to see Joe Rogan take over a CNN spot.
That would be great.
Yeah, that would be
In the Pentagon. They said, "Well, we'll still be reporting on the Pentagon." Yeah, right. Where, from your
from
local
the front
McDonald's
steps.
or
Not inside.
The food bank line, maybe.
yes. So the part of sad. So when I was in Branson. God told me to go there twice, and I went. They were about to have a tornado, and I went outside and I prayed and said, "Go away," and the tornado went away. So I don't know if I had anything to do with it or not, but I talked to my sister-in-law, and she said, "Well, they had a tornado there in 2012 that almost took down the whole town of Branson." So I went to go see the My Girl, The Temptation. I went to go see them. They were at Legends. And I talked to everybody. I give everybody my card. So I talked to the lady that seated everyone, and I said, "I hear there was a tornado out here in 2012. She said, "Oh, yes. It skipped the house of God and ripped the roof off the Temptations venue."
Wow.
Oh my.
And I was like, it ripped the roof off the Temptations venue? Because seriously, I'm not saying that the Temptations are bad, because we love them, My Girl. But,
yes, of course.
if you were working for Satan, wouldn't you be a temptation?
Yeah.
That's
a good point.
When the earth swallowed up that 3,500 people, he was, very careful. The others next to it didn't get swallowed.
Yeah.
Right.
God knows
So
what he's doing.
I'm not like saying that the Temptations are satanic. I'm just
Yeah.
saying
No.
that's a weird name,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, to take upon yourself. But the so I talked to this one individual who was a Temptation. His name's Nate Evans, and there was a movie called My Girl,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
in which in My Girl, it was with Dan Aykroyd. Um, her her uh her boyfriend, she has a little boyfriend who gets killed by bee stings.
Mm-hmm. Macaulay Culkin.
Yes, and I was in a band called Stinger. So
Oh.
yeah.
Oh.
I can't even go there because it just gets really technical. Anyway, I texted him and said, "Why is My Girl sad?" Okay. SAD is the Special Activities Division of the CIA.
Now, did you catch that? Special Activities
I have it written
Director.
down in my
Right.
notes.
So when you're saying it that way, we don't. It's not just a sad movie. It's part of the sad movement.
Yes.
Okay.
Special
Good
Activities.
job.
Now they've changed it. Special Activities Division. They changed the name to it to Special Activities Center.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
It's a division in the United States CIA.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's gone from
The
sad to sack. It's a sad sack.
Right.
It's
a sad sack.
sack.
It says the Special Activities Center, SAC, is a division of the United States Central Intelligence Agency primarily responsible for covert and paramilitary operations. Special Activities Division SAD, prior to 2015. Within SAC, there are two separate groups, SAC and SOG, which are Special Operations Group for Tactical Paramilitary Operations, and SAC PAG, Political Action Group, for Covert Political Action. But in its initial inception, and they go through all these operations, Bay of Pigs, Vietnam War, Cyclone, etc. But throughout the special activities, they utilized the entertainment venue for clandestine or covert operations. Additionally, we had Tracy Torme on our show. Tracy Torme is the son of Mel Torme. He died in January 4th. I think it was in 2024. And I asked him, he did Sliders, he did Fire in the Sky, about the Travis Walton story. I said, Tracy, were you aware he was a Democrat, but he became a Republican? And I said, were you aware that you had CIA in your writing rooms? He said, well, I wasn't at the time, Penny, but now I am.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. You know, we
Wow.
don't have much time left, but I do want you to address the whole, speaking of the CIA, is John Brennan. He was the director of the CIA when my son was murdered. And we, wrote him over and over again and no response. Can you just tell us something about John Brennan?
Well, I don't know him personally, but I don't like him. I think he actually might be a Satanist. That's just my personal opinion. I know of people that did know him, and one of my friends was at the King Faisal Hospital in Saudi Arabia. She was fighting sex trafficking, drug trafficking, and the operating of children without anesthesia. She actually became homeless. I think the Mossad tried to kill her. At one point, she did and still does know one of the princes who Tucker Carlson just interviewed. And I showed her a picture of Brennan and said, "Do you know him?" And she started crying. And she said, "Yes." She said he was at embassy parties. I said, "Well, that would make sense since he was a station chief in Saudi Arabia at one point." I believe that this man has been involved in more operations than we will ever know. And he is not a friend of the people.
No.
Many of the people that are in the CIA, I believe they are not friends of the people. I hope there's some way that can change, but I believe that the parameters of the CIA have involved the global overtaking of governments, and assassinations and murders of presidents around the world, including our own. I think that JFK was actually murdered by order of perhaps Lyndon Johnson and in conjunction with the CIA. I was watching the JFK swearing in of Lyndon Johnson, and JFK's wife Jackie was standing there, and I took snapshots and I sent it to my partner David Zubik, and I said, She knew then that it was Lyndon. She knew that Lyndon killed her husband and was now taking over the presidency. And that's why she said, I'm wearing this dress. Because they said, honey, don't you want to change out of that
Yes,
bloody
I
dress?
remember that
And
now.
she said, no, I want them to see what they did to my husband. But she's standing there, and you take a look at her face, her abject, literal, like terror, because I think she knew who was responsible for killing her husband. And we're going to find this out under Kash Patel.
Well, we will. And it was interesting. My son lived in Dallas. He's an airline pilot with American Airlines. And we went to the museum where JFK was killed. And the museum's right next. They have the X marks on the road of where he was killed. And the museum was real. It told the real story, that it could not have possibly happened the way that we were told. And I was so shocked to see them really giving real evidence of, CIA involvement, and how it was a big plan. And so I was excited about that, to see that somebody's telling the truth.
I actually interviewed an individual named James Files. For the audience, if they don't know who he is, just go ahead and take a look. He's got some books out there, but he says he was actually contracted by CIA and mafia, and he took the kill shot from the grassy knoll. I don't know the veracity of it. I interview people. I let them tell their stories. We'll find out.
We'll find out. Penny, we've come to an end, but I'd love for you to take a few minutes to just end however you'd like, whatever you'd like our audience to know about what you're doing, about anything that you'd like to say to end our show off.
Well, I'd like to tell people, please watch The Awake Nation. We are Monday through Friday, and we're going to be off this following Monday, which is the 24th. But we're Monday through Friday on the David Zubik channel, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. I also pre-record the Trauma Triage team, which is a team of about 20 people who speak and have resolutions on traumatic events. They speak from their own experience, but then they also find situations, they present the situations, and then they present their findings. The heart of it is mending hearts and finding solutions.
Awesome.
So if you would like to join the Trauma Triage team, please contact me at 619-779-9771. Or if you would like to be a guest on the Awake Nation or on Agent X11, and I hope I haven't hypnotized you with my sign, but that's the thing. So if you'd like to be a guest on that, on Agent X11, Hollywood Dark Journalist, or in a true crime episode, if you have any information. Also, if you're an investigative journalist and want to come on our news segment, we do 2 hours of news every single day, Monday through Friday.
Is any of this on Rumble, YouTube?
It's on David Zublik channel on Rumble, and then Agent X11 is also on Rumble. And I pre-record my shows, and then I post them. But Awake Nation is live, and I'd like to close with this. I'd like to tell people I'm very happy about President Trump being in office, but I want to tell people this is indeed, you've heard it 1,000 times, this is a spiritual fight. It is not over. It is not done by any means. Please pray for your president. Pray for every official that is now in that office. Pray for their protection. Pray that they're able to talk to God and take God's directives.
Amen. That is perfect.
And I think that when Trump got shot at, that he fell to his knees and he became holy Jesus at that point, and he knew what his mission was, and perhaps that was what the delay was in the 4 years. So I just ask our listening audience, please, keep this administration in your heart and in your prayers, and please talk to Jesus Christ. He is your Father.
Yep. Thank you so much. Good. What a beautiful way to end our show. Thank you so much, Penny. God bless. I look forward to being on your show again.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies.
Yes, thank you so much.